You've talked a little bit about alcohol in your life. How bad was that?
Well, I think it's looking at the depression and not having a handle over it and looking for any solution possible to just clear yourself of the thoughts that you're having when you're in those depths of depression. And so there was a period where I was drinking too much because I just wanted to forget. I'd wake up the next day, I'd wake up feeling worse. I was more depressed, I had a hangover. I go to training, I do it all again, and I haven't addressed what the issue is. So I'm fortunate that I realized that, this drinking thing is not helping. It's actually making you worse. And I had to delve deeper into, what is depression for me and getting my head around that because I didn't understand it.
I mean, even in this interview, you've talked about the feeling of differentness, of isolation that you had going back to your earliest years. Did you have anybody in your life you could talk to about this? I mean, I know you were close to your parents. Could you talk to them about this?
Well, I chose not to because for so many years I was embarrassed about this. I didn't want to talk about it. I wanted, and I think, all children want to please their parents on this very basic level.
But did your parents not get a sense that something was wrong?
They didn't know because I acted it very well, that they didn't know. And I was constantly covering up, my tracks. They saw me happy all the time. Most of the time I was happy. There were times where it was put on because I didn't want them to know.
You must have been one heck of an actor.
I think I might have been. And now that I've told them, that it's a little bit hurtful for them that they didn't think I could tell them because they wanted to be there to help me.
But even, it's difficult, but even in those times when you've actually said that you, late at night, would lie down and you would think about suicide and you would think about the how and the where of doing it, even then you couldn't, for example, talk to your mother, somebody that, you were extraordinarily close to in many ways.
Well, I am, but you have to realize the irrationality of depression is that you don't think that way. You start to see something like suicide as being completely viable and it becomes an option and you think at the time that it is actually rational. It's only after you've gone through that period that you realize this was completely irrational and this is when you seek help. It's not at the time of suicide that you consider help.
How close, honestly, do you think you came?
Well, I say, I think there's a part of people considering what suicide would be like. I don't think that this is, unnatural to think like this. But when you start putting in place and looking at what is the way or how, and looking at how am I going to do the least amount of damage to my family if I was to go through with this, looking into, what would be the least hurtful way for them. And when you can't clear your mind of this kind of thinking for hours, sometimes days, you know that you're very close. And I'm fortunate that I didn't get to that point, that I didn't get into that process of action.